Hello, true health seekers, and welcome to another fantastic episode. But before we get started, I need to discuss two pieces of information. One, our contest is going to be drawn on Friday, so you have 2 more days to enter into the contest. You can go back and listen to the episode I released a few days ago called Contest for all the details. But essentially, if you feel that my podcast deserves a 5-star rating, go ahead to iTunes and give it a 5-star rating and review. And then email me, ashley@learntruehealth.com, and let me know you did, and you'll be entered to win $100 worth of awesome goodies and supplements. It's great. I've got this great package for you. I'm really excited to send it to one of you. So go ahead and do that. You got 2 more days to enter. And if you're listening to this in the archives and this has been weeks have gone by, you can still do that and still email me, and I will automatically enter you into the next contest that we will hold. So this next episode, we recorded it actually several weeks ago, and soon after we recorded 2 episodes with Oleg, his website was attacked. Now, he has been an advocate for holistic health, and he works with scientists and researchers and doctors, really upstanding people who are bringing this specific type of holistic medicine into the light. But there are people or organizations that do not want this information out there. And so his website was attacked and completely demolished. He wasn't able to recover it. And so right now, when we mention his website in both episodes, part 1 and part 2, you won't be able to go to his website. But he does have a fan page, and he is uploading all of the information to his fan page on Facebook. And if you have any questions, you can always contact them through the fan page. It is absolutely amazing what him and the doctors that he is working with have been able to help people reverse, help people no longer have diseases like epilepsy. So his Facebook page is called Green Bloom for Humanity. So you can go to Facebook and just type in Green Bloom for Humanity, and it's a fan page. And definitely like it and follow it. There'll be more updates coming from his fan page. I will also be linking the URL that goes directly to his fan page in the show notes of this podcast, so you can also view it there. So just know, when we mention his website, it's no longer in existence. It's been hacked off the universe, and that's okay, because he's just going to continue to do his research and work with these doctors, and he's going to continue to get this information out there. I was blown away by the information that he had to share, and I hope you are too. Keep a really open mind. Remember, this is a controversial topic, but results don't lie. So just keep an open mind and listen to everything that he has to say, and then you can decide for yourself. All right, excellent. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 27.
For the listeners that listen to us online, and for any other listeners, we just wanted to do a small disclaimer that we invoke our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech and a press without prejudice granted by Constitution, and all the products that we discuss are not intended to diagnose, cure, prevent, or treat any diseases and not approved by FDA, but they proven useful for the promotion of health and life extension. We also recommend that you consult your licensed health professional for any health issues that you have.
Well, I'm very excited about our guest today. Our guest is an expert in the healing properties of cannabis. I heard about Oleg through a friend of mine who told me that she had heard that he was helping people, like people with epilepsy, no longer have epileptic seizures. And so I got really excited and looked into what he was doing, and I went to his website, which is green-bloom.com. And as it is described on his website, Green Bloom is the industry in developing raw, non-psychoactive cannabinoids. Don't get high, get healthy. So welcome, Oleg, to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Jumping right in, your website says, don't get high, get healthy.
Yes.
And the negative stigma around cannabis is that it's associated with the fact that you get high from marijuana. If you remove the element of getting high, you remove the stigma and you're left with a healing herb like echinacea or golden seal or peppermint.
Yes.
How does that work? How do you get the healing properties from this herb without the high?
Without the high? Well, I kind of stumbled upon this very, very by accident. And what happened is my mom, she's a natural healer for the past 35 years. And I've studied essential oils a long time because I know about 115 different essential oils. There is a 3 oldest company in the world that doing essential oils: Germany, United States, and I believe Japan. So I was working with Germany company, and when I started to consume cannabis myself, I got so much rejection from my relatives that I was shocked, because they always think that when you get high, you become crazy, right? In reality, most people do not understand word high, because the product that we deal with today, cannabis that's sold through the stores, it's usually grown in artificial environment, and most of the cannabinoid profile is completely changed. And it's, for the last 4 years, it was illegal industry. So even more than that, but it was very profitable. So most of the growers back then, they used special lights, they used special chemicals, and it was in basements, right, with constant ventilation, which is non-natural. So, but when you deal with the cannabis that grown naturally in the presence of sun, right, you have full, what I call balanced cannabinoid and terpenoid profile. So I learned that cannabis much more therapeutic when you consume it in raw form, in acid form, what it's called. And for me, cannabis is not just medicine. For me, cannabis, foremost, it's a supplement, and it's a super supplement, because it can supplement about 40 types of groups of food. And it can supplement all vitamins altogether, because some of the cannabinoids affect your body much stronger than vitamins itself. And most people do not realize that up until 1938, before the cannabis was still legal, America had no issue with immune system problems or with cancer problems or heart issues. All of these problems started to grow right after cannabis was illegalized, basically, right? Number two, most of my patients, I cannot say patients because I'm not a doctor, I just teach people how to heal themselves, okay, because it's the easiest way. When people come to us, I tell them, I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for your whole family, because if you learn how to change your body, you can learn to do anything else. Especially, change your body is the hardest for us, right? Because I even look at my kids. Usually kids do not do what you tell them, they do what you do, okay? They copy you. So change yourself much harder than other environment. So I learned that people that who never had experience with cannabis, they're afraid of being high, because they were brainwashed. Number two, if they don't want to experience this temporary impairment, why should I put them to? Like, how can I put kids in a high state if they're small kids? Some ladies, some old folks, they never ever in their life smoked cannabis, so they still do not want to experience this. So I decided to learn process how to extract cannabinoids without activating them. And it was not even my invention. I would say it's more like a download from God, because it was almost like a revelation. I started to search what is the more important, cannabis, cannabinoids, or terpenoids. And if you know the difference, you maybe know that.
But for our listeners who don't know that.
Well, most people, they know only one word, THC. And it's only one member of 200 family members.
So you're saying that in cannabis, there's 200 different...
100 plus cannabinoids and about same amount of terpenoids.
Got it. So there's a lot of different chemicals within the cannabis.
Yes. And the problem with science today, especially the scientific approach to cannabis, is when they take cannabis in the lab, they try to isolate all the cannabinoids from each other, which are already in proper state to begin with. And they study effect of cannabinoids in its isolated state. So this research is very, very limited, and it's pseudo research, right? When you apply not just cannabis, when you apply any herbs simultaneously together, you experience what is called synergy effect. So they reinforce each other to the degree, in my experience, I've seen full recovery from last stage of cancer within 5 weeks.
Really?
I mean, full remission. People start to drive, they start to active again after being released to die from the hospital. Because when you consume cannabis in its active form, let's say you heat it up or you smoke it, right? And again, people have done it for thousands of years. I found 66 places in the Old Testament with the word cannabis. So even the incense in the temple that was used by the priests had some part of cannabis in it when they smoked it. Because it's scientifically proven that cannabis open up your pineal gland, which is clogged for most Americans because of the intake of fluoride in the water.
I've actually heard that several times before.
Yes. So cannabinoids, they are 300 to 400% more therapeutically effective when you consume them in raw form.
Meaning not active.
Not active.
So you're not trying to get a high like a drug. You're taking it like an herb, like a supplement.
Exactly. And there is lots of study, especially in Northern California. Professor William Courtney, he is a world expert on raw cannabis. They prefer to juice it, which is also, I believe in my personal opinion, that's the best intake form for most people. The problem is cannabis is still illegal in 160 countries. And to do the juicing, you have to have about 30 plants a month, which is lots of hard labor, because it's very hard to grow 30 plants a month. So you have to have one plant a day.
And you'll want to grow them outdoors.
Yes.
Just going back on that point, Dr. Megan Saunders has been on the show before, and she's a naturopath and an herbalist. She's spoken about how when you get a tincture from an herb, so golden seal, echinacea, peppermint, when you take an herb and you want to get a tincture, you want that herb to be wild crafted, meaning it grew in the wild with sunlight and naturally grew there, and then you pick it. She actually describes that there's a huge difference in a plant, in the medicinal qualities of a plant when it is wild crafted or organic or grown outdoors versus grown in a synthetic environment. So what you're saying is exactly what she says when talking about the healing properties of herbs. If someone has had a bad experience in the past from marijuana, like a bad trip, or they're worried about feeling out of control and they might be afraid of trying the tinctures, can you speak to those people, like you had mentioned, the seniors, or if there's children, and I have heard news stories of parents taking their children to either countries or states where it's legal and getting a doctor to work with them using cannabinoids to help the child because they had horrific seizures or they were at end stage cancer, and so the parents were desperate to look for something to help their child. And of course we don't want to it's funny because it's like it's illegal to make a child totally high off of pain meds, but if we could help them holistically without making them high, that would be really nice. And so speak to those people who are afraid of the healing properties of cannabis, or worried that they're going to get a bad trip. Really, when someone uses the raw non-psychotropic cannabinoids, they don't feel anything, or what do they feel?
Well, 99% of the times, I cannot say 100 because we're still humans. Some people, they do not follow exactly to my protocol, but 99% of the time, three things they feel immediately. Complete pain relief. And by complete, I mean pain level from 10 goes to pain level 0 within 20-40 minutes. That's what I mean. Number two is usually complete sleep aid. People who did not sleep for 10 to 20 years because of some chronic pain or some issues with neurological disorder. And the number three is anxiety goes away immediately. One lady told me that she did not realize how much anxiety she had before it left her.
Actually, I read on your website the testimonials. They made me cry. I have to let you know. So if you want a real tearjerker, go to Oleg's website, green-bloom.com, and read the testimonials. People who were suffering from migraines or anxiety or sleep issues, and even a few cancer stories. I was really blown away. How is it that this one herb can affect so many different conditions?
Well, I usually compare it to angelic realm. Like you cannot compare people, human beings, with angels, right? Because it's two different dimensions. It's different genetics, it's different frequencies, everything is different. Although some people actually told me that they've saw them. So in my opinion, cannabis is more like a angelic plant than anything else because it can grow in any continent, right? It only grows 3 months, but it can substitute all forms of oils, all forms of fiber, all forms of textile needs, and like I said, about 40 types of food. So cannabis is like a super medicine, in my opinion.
Right, and let's speak to that for a sec, because I think there is still a lot of people who are reserved about medicinal marijuana or just cannabis in general. I understand because I grew up being taught that it was as bad as heroin or street drugs, because that's what the public school system will teach us.
Mm-hmm.
And then to look back at when it was legal in America, that we used it to make our clothing, to make the rope for the sail ships, to make food, and they were even figuring out a way to make paper with it, and so that they didn't have to cut down trees.
Mm-hmm.
So there was so many uses that really it's a great resource besides medicine.
Well, I was told by many historians that United States economy was built on cannabis alone, because it was only source of the oils, like I said, ropes, textiles, fabrics, and especially paper, because paper from cannabis will last 400, 500 years, but it grows only 3 months, versus paper from trees will last up to 100 years, right?
And you have to wait.
And you have to wait another 100 years to grow it.
To grow the tree. So yeah, absolutely. Speaking one last time about the stigma of cannabis and illegal drugs, it's funny, if you still, as a listener, if you still have a negative connotation about it, I just want to bring up that we don't think about street drugs as having something natural or healing or healthy, right? We think of people overdosing. And I hear that you can't really overdose on pot.
Impossible. And it's scientifically proven many, many times. There is no substance on earth that will not overdose you. Even water can kill you.
Sure.
Like if you drink 4 gallons of water, you will die. If you eat 10 raw potatoes, you will die. Pretty much anything will kill you in huge doses except cannabis. And that's why there is not even one scientific proof of mortal lethal outcome of overdose, what they call. Because again, endocannabinoid system was placed in us when we were created, right? And all mammals have endocannabinoid system.
So our brain receptors, or the receptors in our body, have these receptors for cannabinoids.
Only because, again, cannabis by itself doesn't do anything. It's just a trigger. It's antagonist. So when you take a gun, for instance, that's a good example because most people start to understand. When you have a gun and the gun shoots the bullet and the bullet destroys the object, how important is the trigger?
It's what sets it off.
It's also without trigger would be no reaction, right? So cannabis doesn't affect your brain like most people think. Your brain, because it receives signal from cannabis, send another signal to your body, because we have what is called homeostasis, which we lost about a few thousand years ago. And our generation is the worst because we consume 1,000 times more chemicals through pollution and through food than even our grandmothers. Number two, our grandmothers did not have shots, immunization. So when we were born, our immune system already was destroyed immediately. And number three, we do not consume cannabinoids, which was created by God to be consumed on a daily basis. So coming back to this question about the spikes in the or effect of the first time consuming cannabis, there is only 2 reasons for that. Number one is your endocannabinoid deficiency, which we all have. And number 2 is your endocannabinoid tolerance. So the wider the distance between 2, the more radical the effect would be. But again, if you consume cannabis from the store, it doesn't mean it's a cannabis. In my opinion, it's artificial stuff, because Growers properly do not wash the plants. Like even if you grow under the lamp and you use some kind of fertilizers, you have to wash the plant for 10 days without any, just water. Number two, cannabis sometimes contain lots of mildew, lots of fungus, and lots of bacteria. So if you don't kill it, it may give you side effects. Number three, cannabis sometimes have spider mites. If you don't remove them from the plant, they will give you side effect when you smoke. And if people use some kind of pesticides or herbicides, when you smoke, it's going to affect your brain as well. So when people tell me that they get negative effect from cannabis, I usually tell them, no, you take it, you get it from additives, not from cannabis. Because if you go to India, to Africa, and just reap normally grown cannabis, it will never give you negative effect, never.
Because it's all naturally grown.
For two reasons. Number one, there is a balanced endocannabinoid profile. So you have same ratio of THC versus CBD. Mm-hmm. And CBD always neutralizes side effect of THC, always. So even when people very, very high, I can get them pretty normal within 25 minutes with my products. Nobody can offer that because nobody knows that. Number two, when you consume cannabis in its raw form, your tolerance doesn't go up. For instance, when you drink coffee first time, or when you drink wine or a beer, whatever, your tolerance always goes up all the time, right? Same with cannabis. When people smoke cannabis, their tolerance goes up. Mm-hmm. So they need more and more dosage. Mm-hmm. I was consumed with this idea how to stop this, because problem with the children, their body mass goes very rapidly high up because they grow every day. And because of that, poor parents have to spend up to $2,000 a month per protocol, per medical therapy of cannabis. What I found out is when you consume raw cannabis, your tolerance always goes down. What it means to me is all of the people that come to us, their budgets, spending goes down. So let's say if person have cancer, he should usually start between 50 and 70 milligrams per 24 hours. In about 1 year, they only need 7 milligrams per 24 hours.
That's fascinating. Who is there any research that you could reference that we go look at around this?
Unfortunately, last year in July of 2015, we conducted a seminar in UW, University of W. We actually rented the biggest Agnes auditorium, and we invited medical professionals because there was a speaker from Los Angeles. His name is Dr. Frankel. He's a medical professor to UCLA for like 20 years. And he's my friend, and I learned a lot from him. So he was the speaker, and somebody from the auditorium at the end of the presentation asked him this question. Well, doctor, what is the difference between raw and active, acid and not acid? And he has 10 years of cannabis treatment practice. He cured about 200 kids from epilepsy.
Amazing.
Incurable types of epilepsy, like Dravet syndrome. So, and he said, we don't know because nobody studied it. And what I did, I cross-referenced data between two sides of patients who took active cannabis and who took raw cannabis. And in 3 years, you can clearly see the difference. Because, well, just this year alone, we helped about 8 people with cancer. Not the 2016, but the previous 15. And it's amazing that this plant will give us about 150, 300 years of more research, because we only start to scratch the surface of the iceberg. Right. People have no clue how much effect this medicine or this plant can do for us.
Well, the pharmaceutical companies know, because they are currently trying to synthesize drugs from cannabis, just like the willow bark. So Dr. Megan Saunders in a previous episode talked about how it's hard to overdose on an herb. I mean, yes, there are some herbs that are that can have toxic levels, but it's hard to, because in a natural form, there are properties in an herb that will tell the body to stop taking it. Like, for example, if you take too much willow bark, there's something in willow bark that triggers us to throw up, so we don't consume it. So it's a safeguard. It's like God created a safeguard to make sure we don't take too much of something. and if it is toxic. But pharmaceutical companies extracted the chemical in willow bark that decreases pain, leaving out the other properties that are the healthy safeguards. And so you can overdose on aspirin and hurt yourself. Recently, a pharmaceutical company was conducting a study, or a trial, I should say, and they had tried to extract and then synthesize something from cannabis, and they ended up causing one of the people in the trial to go brain dead. Mm-hmm. And this is news that just came out. It was a company in France. So pharmaceutical companies know that that there are healing properties, but of course, in the natural raw form, which is probably the best form of any herb to take, they can't profit from it. Of course. So they're looking to synthesize. So there's definitely something here.
It's very important to explain why you cannot overdose on cannabis, because most people don't understand. We have what's so-called brain stem areas in the brain, and all these brain stem areas, they control our organs. So if you put too much nicotine or too much ethanol, which is alcohol, into this area of the brain, they block the signaling to your heart, for instance, and your heart might stop. That's what causing the death. But the endocannabinoid receptors, CB1 and CB2, they're not located close to these areas at all. So regardless how much you're going to activate them, they will not send signal to stop your organs. And that's why you cannot overdose. Number two, your other comment about the pharmaceuticals. Our government, our US government, filed patent for the CBD application in 1993. And they renewed this patent in 2003. And they actually said, you should read this patent, it's actually said that CBD is the only substance on earth that can rejuvenate your neurons, rebuild them from scratch.
Really?
So it's not just stops the problem, but it's restore your brain back to normal. For instance, when I spoke to some surgeons, especially brain surgeons, and they say when you operate on people, especially with alcoholic addictions or with tumors, brain usually have scar tissues. So when they remove the tumor from the brain, they hold it housing. It's like a scar around the tumor. And this scar tissue usually never goes away. When you apply CBD-A or THCA on daily routine basis, not just tumor disappears, but the whole housing disappears, and the brain regenerates itself to normal basis state. This is, by normal scientific standards, it's a miracle.
I would say.
And we actually have a video on our website with the 2 months baby with the brain tumor size of the egg. And in 8 months, there was no tumor, no housing, and the brain was completely normal. 8 months.
Well, okay, I'm definitely going to go watch that video on your website. So you've mentioned a few conditions that this is good for, this herb is good for, the raw, non-psychotropic extract of the of the cannabis. Can you talk about other conditions? Who else would benefit from this?
Every single person, because there was a study done in several universities of Jamaica, and it was secretly done because Jamaica is a very special country. They have very, very many Coptic churches, and Ethiopian Coptic Church, they refer to cannabis as an enhancer to God. They still practice cannabis in their liturgy. By the way, Jamaica just legalized cannabis for the clerical religious purposes, not just medicinal. So the study they've done, it was pretty much 20 plus years ago. They were giving cannabis to pregnant women on this side, and on this side they studied pregnant women that was not taking any. And they compared data of the newborns, like several thousand newborns. They were blown away, the results. So Dr. William Courtney, he says that cannabis should be consumed before we conceived. And when people ask me, so how long should I take this substance or supplement? I usually ask them the same question. How long are you willing to drink water or breathe air? Like how many years are you planning to do this? This is necessity that you cannot survive without, in my opinion, cannabinoids. The reason is we have 5 barriers, right, against any pathology. I call them barriers because that's what saves us. Number 1 is a memory. Usually people who went through traumatic experience, they do not remember that. It's a way of brain to protect itself. Number 2 is a pain response. If you don't feel pain, you're gonna die pretty soon. It's our protection. Number 3 is digestive system. That's how we actually consume, right?
To absorb nutrition.
Nutritions. And that's how we pass out toxins. Number 4 is our sleep. And number 5 is immune system. So without any of those, you usually get sick, right? If all 5 goes down, you die. So cannabis, what it does, it synchronizes all of them 5 all together at the same time. So when people say that cannabis cures cancer, it's not necessarily true. Cannabis gives your body 8 different ways to kill cancer cells.
So by cannabis stimulating your immune system, aiding your digestion and absorption of nutrition, helping with sleep, which we've talked about in previous episodes, that sleep is a huge part of our health, and without it, a lot of our body can't regulate. So getting healthy sleep is a big deal, and we just, in America, we really are sleep deprived.
Exactly.
And then you also said pain. So without the ability to feel pain, obviously we would do things that wouldn't be helpful. But are you saying that cannabis helps to reduce pain, and that is one of the...
Not reduce it, but remove it.
Really?
Because I never seen one that wasn't able to remove pain completely, who followed exact dosage. Because you have to remember that any herbs or any substance will affect each brain differently because of different endocannabinoid deficiency and the tolerance levels. So same dose can affect 1,000 different people differently. And my approach to this is find minimum effective dose. I'm against overdosing, I'm against megadosing. Because when people smoke cannabis, usually most smokers, they consume about 1 ounce a month. So on the retail size, it's about $300. If the same person would take this 1 ounce of flowers and convert it into the tinctures, which I do, it's about 6 months of supply.
Really?
But when you consume it in straw form, your tolerance will go down. So in a year, you're gonna need only like 1/5 of that amount with the same therapeutic effect.
That's fascinating. And so how do you take it? So on your website, you have like a raw oil, like the pure oil. You have a spray. So you have different...
We have 4 different delivery methods, and it's usually based on the medical condition, right? For instance, when you're talking about high level of pain, the time is of essence. If you swallow edible of any kind with cannabis, you have to wait sometimes up to 2 hours before it digested, goes through your liver, and then it goes to bloodstream to your brain. Versus when you sublingually spray it under your tongue and keep it there for at least like a minute, and move your tongue, so the receptors under your tongue will be absorbing point, and it will get in your brain about 15-20 minutes. So most of the stuff, most of the people, they prefer sublingual method, which is...
So he's holding a small glass bottle with a spray.
The second approach is subdermal penetration. And you know, when you, let's say, eat honey, right? You swallow it and you destroy most of it because of the fluids in your stomach, which is acid. Versus if you go to the bathtub and put honey in the water, the honey will go through your pores directly to your bloodstream. That's how the honey keepers actually consume honey. Or you go to the steam room and you put it on your skin, it usually disappears within like seconds. It's not even sticky anymore. So this is the same approach, and I just found very fast delivery methods. This is the fastest method to stop pain. The fastest. Me personally, I broke this finger 2 years ago, and it was swollen like this, and it was blue color. And pain was not very strong, but about 5-6. Manageable, right? Especially when you consume cannabis, your brain doesn't even register pain anymore because it's a whole bunch of different processes happens. So what I did, I put the same substance in the spray bottle and I sprayed on my finger. And I had a timer. 8 seconds later, pain stopped completely.
Wow.
The agent I'm referring to is DMSO. Maybe you know what it is.
No.
It's like topic for another completely different session, because this product itself will consume like 2 hours.
For those who can't see.
It's called DMSO.
So the DMSO was what you're holding?
Mixed with CBD or THC, whatever I use.
And it's a small vial with a roller so that you can roll it on your skin.
By the way, you will feel the effect within like 20 seconds. If you give me your arm.
So it doesn't have very much of an odor.
No, there is no odor. This agent will penetrate your tissues up to the bone within like 20 seconds.
So people with arthritis or back pain or,
yes. Even people who had surgeries just recently, I was able to remove pain 100%.
Wow.
This topical is, it's essential oils of 111 herbs combined. This topical by itself is like a miracle, because my mother, she has arthrosis, and usually people with this condition, they use Oxycontin for pain.
Oh my gosh.
And I've seen people with her condition, they use walkers, they use canes, they cannot walk themselves. On top of that, she broke her pelvis. 2 years ago, she was hit by a car. So usually people with this kind of condition, and after the accident, they do not walk. She stopped using painkillers in 2005, my mother. Now she goes to ski once a week. She goes to gym once a week, and she goes to choir 3 times a week.
How old is she?
70. And on many occasions, she told me that she feels like she's 45 again. So all I did, I added cannabis in here too. So these two is like delivery agents for this subdermal application. And fourth, which is very kind of strange, but it's very, very fast and effective. It's either vaginal or rectal, especially with people with Crohn. Like my Dr. Alan, he was able, one of his patients had a horrible Crohn condition, and he was giving him 70 milligrams per 24 hours of oral spray. It's in my opinion, it's a huge dose. I would usually only give it to people who are dying. But the interesting point is he switched him to rectal syringes, and his dosage, effective dosage, went from 70 milligram to 20. So it's like 4 times difference in the money-wise. Can you imagine? Effect is the same.
You know, there's so many more questions I have, and so I'm definitely going to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for bringing this information to us. And for those who are interested, who want to go down this rabbit hole and see how far the rabbit hole goes, please visit Oleg's website. It's green-bloom.com. There's a lot of great videos on your website, information that I think if you're interested in health in any way, you're going to find his website interesting. Mm-hmm. So we'll definitely have you back. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting. It was a pleasure.
How would you like to learn from top naturopathic physicians? Go to freedoctorcourse.com and sign up for the free course that'll email you videos with tips and tricks to achieving optimal health. That's freedoctorcourse.com. freedoctorcourse.com. Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com, and one of our fantastic true health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.